I was on my knees in the mud, my fingers trembling as I lifted the filthy tin bowl to my lips. The stench was unbearable, hot, sour, rotten. My stomach had eaten itself days ago, and the only thing left now was pain and instinct. I closed my eyes, told myself it was soup, and swallowed. A thick, foul taste filled my mouth, half-digested grains bile human waste. I gagged, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. I hadn't eaten in a week, and the others were already watching, waiting for me to finish. They needed their share. I fed on poop for 21 days. But that wasn't the worst part of the prison camp. It was what came after, the thing that lived in the woods beyond the barbed wire. It came at night, dragging bodies that screamed like they were being torn apart from the inside. We thought the Nazis were the monsters. We were wrong. I first heard its voice the night Jacob disappeared. But to understand how I got to that moment, you have to know what happened before. I was 15 when the war swallowed my town. We lived in a small village near the border of Poland and Germany. My name is Emil. My father was a baker, my mother a schoolteacher. We had a garden, a dog named Trudy, and an old radio that crackled songs late at night. I was never hungry. I never saw a man die. I never knew what the inside of a prison camp smelled like. That changed in October 1942. The soldiers came at dawn. I remember their boots on the cobblestone and how the sky looked too blue, too clean. They shouted orders in German, shoved people into trucks. My father grabbed my hand and told me to run. I didn't. I watched as they beat him, dragged him across the square. Mother tried to stop them. They knocked her down. The next thing I knew, I was inside a truck with 60 others. Old men, crying women, children. We didn't know where we were going. Someone said it was a war camp. Someone else whispered, death camp. We arrived at night. There was no sign, no name, just barbed wire, watchtowers, barking dogs, and the smell like burning meat and something worse. We were split into groups. I never saw my parents again after that night. I still don't know if they made it into the camp or if they were sent somewhere else. My group was all boys, around my age or a little older. They shaved our heads, stripped us, gave us wooden shoes and uniforms that didn't fit. We slept in wooden bunks packed together like animals. The cold was a monster that bit our fingers and toes, but the hunger was worse. It crawled inside you, whispered in your ear, made you dream of food you would never taste again. We worked in the fields by day, digging trenches and carrying rocks. By night, we tried not to breathe too loud, not to move too much. The guards had whips, and they used them for fun. Sometimes they played games, made us fight each other for bread crusts. Sometimes they just came into the barracks and dragged someone out. Jacob was my friend. He was from Krakow, and he used to sneak me bits of potato when I looked like I was going to faint. He was funny, even in the worst moments. He once made us laugh so hard in the latrine that a guard beat us both for an hour. Jacob disappeared on the 34th night. No one saw the guards take him. He just wasn't there in the morning. We asked around, but everyone pretended not to know anything. If you asked too many questions, you disappeared too. That night, I stayed awake, my eyes on the door. I thought maybe he had escaped. Maybe he found a way out through the woods. But then I heard it. A voice. Not a person's voice. Not human. It was low and wet, like someone speaking underwater. It came from beyond the fence, from the trees that we weren't allowed near. I heard screaming, but it wasn't Jacob's voice. It was something else. Something being ripped open and laughing while it died. The next morning, they found a body at the edge of the woods. Not Jacob, some other prisoner. His eyes were missing. His mouth was open, so wide it looked like it had been broken on purpose. The guards said nothing. They just cleaned it up and carried on. The hunger got worse after that. The food rations became smaller. Some said it was because the war was turning against the Germans. Others said it was punishment. I didn't care. I just knew I needed to eat. The older boys started eating things from the waste pit. Rotten potato peels, bones with mold, even animal feces when they could find it. One day, a boy named Leszek told us he'd found something special. We followed him to the waste pit behind the latrines. There it was, a thick, grayish sludge mixed with corn and bile and something else. I gagged just looking at it. Leszek scoops him into a tin and said, "If you close your eyes, it's porridge." I was the last to try it. My stomach was screaming. My hand shook. I told myself it wasn't what I knew it was. I held my breath. I swallowed. The pain went away, just for a moment. That was the beginning of the 21 days. We fed on it, shared it, fought over it. It was the only thing that kept us alive. But it changed us, made us less like boys and more like shadows. Something about it wasn't right. I started seeing things. Faces in the mud, whispers that weren't there. The others heard them too. Then came the sickness. One by one, we started bleeding from the gums. Lesek collapsed and didn't get up. Another boy bit his own fingers off in his sleep. Something was wrong with the food. Something inside it. One night, I saw a shape standing just outside the barbed wire. It didn't move like a person. It was too tall, too thin. Its head was all wrong, shaped like a deer skull, but with too many teeth. It watched us. I closed my eyes, prayed it would go away. When I opened them, it was closer. I never told anyone. They would have thought I was mad. But I think it followed me. I think it knew what we were eating. And I think it wanted more. Then came the worst night of them all. It was raining hard, and the wind sounded like someone screaming far away. I had just finished my share of the food and was trying to sleep. That's when I heard the fence rattle. And then I heard Jacob's voice calling my name. Except Jacob had been gone for weeks. I sat up, heart pounding. Emil! The voice whispered, wet and hungry. I found food, real food. I got up slowly, walked to the door of the barracks. Outside, the woods were whispering, and something was moving in the trees. I stood in the doorway of the barracks, rain sliding down my face like tears. The voice came again, softer this time, but closer. Emil! It was Jacob. It had to be, but something in his voice was wrong. It dragged, like the words were stuck in his throat or being pulled by puppet strings. I should have gone back inside. I should have ignored it. But hope is a dangerous thing in a place like that. Even a whisper can be a lifeline. I stepped out into the mud. The rain had turned the yard into a swamp. I could barely see 3 feet in front of me. The guards weren't at their posts. That never happened. I looked up at the towers, empty. No flashlights. No dogs barking. Just the sound of rain. And breathing. Heavy, slow breathing. Jacob, I whispered. Something moved near the fence. I walked toward it, careful not to slip in the muck. The cold cut through my clothes like knives. My feet were numb. My hands shook. Then I saw it. A shadow just beyond the barbed wire. Tall, thin, arms too long, head tilted like it was curious. And eyes, no, not eyes. Holes. Deep, dark holes where a face should have been. It wasn't Jacob. I froze. The thing stepped forward. Barbed wire scratched across its skin, but it didn't bleed. It didn't even flinch. It reached out a hand with fingers like bones stretched too far. Then it spoke again, but it wasn't using a mouth. The voice came from inside my head. Hungry. I stumbled back, slipping in the mud, and hit the ground hard. My head rang. The thing bent low, closer, closer, until I could smell it like dead animals and rot and something worse. Something sweet, like candy that had gone bad. Suddenly, a siren blared. Searchlights flashed on. The thing jerked back and vanished into the trees like smoke. Guards shouted. Dogs barked. I scrambled to my feet and ran, slipping and sliding back into the barracks. No one believed me. You were dreaming, they said. The rain plays tricks. But some of them had seen it too. I could tell by their eyes. The way they wouldn't sleep near the walls anymore. The next day, the guards acted strange. They didn't ask why I was outside. Didn't beat me. Didn't speak at all. That night, 5 more boys went missing. We never saw them again. After that, the guards started piling dirt near the fence. They said it was to stop animals from digging under. But I saw the look in their eyes. They were afraid. Something had changed. The latrine pit overflowed 2 days later. The stench became unbearable. They moved us to a new spot, but that meant no more food. No more foul sludge to keep us going. We started dropping one by one. Bones poked through skin. I sank. My hands shook all the time now. I couldn't think straight. Then one of the boys, Merrick, found something in the dirt near the fence. It was a sack. Inside were human remains. Partly digested, covered in the same sludge we used to eat. But it hadn't come from the latrines. It had come from the woods. We argued for hours. Some said to throw it away, bury it. Others were already chewing the meat, too far gone to care. I didn't eat any. Not that time. That night, I heard it again. The voice. Emil, Taste, remember? I curled into a ball, cover my ears. But the others weren't so lucky. One of the boys, Radek, stood up in his sleep, walked straight into the door, opened it, and walked out into the dark. We found his body the next morning. What was left of it? No face, no skin, just bones and teeth and blood. That's when I knew it wasn't just a hunger spirit. It was feeding off us, and we were feeding off it. The next few days were worse. The air changed. The sky stayed gray. The birds stopped flying overhead. Even the guards looked sick, pale, sweating, eyes darting to the trees. One morning, a guard shot himself right in front of the roll call. Didn't even leave a note. They tried to move us to another part of the camp, but the trucks wouldn't start. The phone stopped working. Radios buzzed with static. We were cut off, like the forest had swallowed the whole camp. And that night, it came inside. We heard the locks click open without keys. The door creaked, and a wind blew in, cold, thick with ash. The smell made us gag. It walked among the bunks. Not fast, not loud, but every time it passed, someone would stop breathing. I pretended to be dead. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. It stopped by my bunk. I could feel its breath. Wet. Sweet. Wrong. Then it whispered, "I remember you." And I remembered something, too. The first bite. The taste of something not meant for human mouths. The way the hunger had gone quiet, like it had been satisfied, then moved on. I lay there until morning, paralyzed. When the sun rose, 6 more were gone. No blood, just bones, arranged like puzzles on the floor. We tried to dig under the fence that day. We didn't care about the guards anymore. Even they weren't trying to stop us. One of them handed us a shovel. That's when the ground collapsed, and we found the pit. Not the latrine, not a waste hole, a feeding pit. Bones, skulls, organs, all fresh, some marked with Nazi medals, some still twitching, and in the center, something moved. It looked up and smiled. We screamed, ran. Only 3 of us made it out of the pit. I haven't slept since. The next night, one of the 3, Luca, started screaming in his sleep. His skin bubbled, peeled, like something was growing inside him. We tried to hold him down, but then something burst out of his chest. It had his face, and it was smiling at me, just like the thing in the pit, just like the thing in the woods. And it said, "I'm still hungry." Then it lunged. Luca's body convulsed one last time as the thing that wore his face crawled out of the hole in his chest. Its limbs were slick and too long, its eyes wide and wrong, like someone had carved eye sockets into a candle and let the wax melt. The smell that hit us was like meat left in the sun, sweet and terrible. We didn't scream. We were too far past that now. Leszek grabbed a rusted bed frame and swung it like a club. It passed right through the creature like it was made of smoke and slime. The thing didn't even flinch. It twisted its neck toward him, backward like an owl, and grinned. That was the first time I saw its real teeth. Rows and rows of tiny, sharp teeth like fish bones moving inside its mouth. It whispered again, "I'm still hungry." Then it jumped on Leszek. There was no fight, just a wet crunch and then silence. I ran. Marek was behind me, his feet slapping against the wooden floor of the barracks as we tore through the door and into the cold, wet dark. Mud splashed up my legs. My lungs burned. I didn't look back, not until I heard it giggle. That's what it sounded like, a child's giggle mixed with choking. I turned. Nothing there. But Marek was gone. I stopped running. There were only 2 of us left now. Me and Jurek, the smallest boy in the group. He was only 12. He'd followed me without saying a word, his eyes wide, his hands wrapped around the last crust of bread he'd hidden in his shirt days ago. We found shelter in a storage shed near the edge of the camp. No one ever used it anymore. It smelled like fuel and rust. We dragged crates against the door, blocked the cracks with rags, and curled up in the corner. Neither of us said a word for hours. We just sat there listening, but there was no sound, no guards, no dogs, not even the rain. It was like the whole camp had gone silent. "Emil," Jurek whispered, voice shaking. "Do you think it was the food?" I didn't answer. I knew it was. The thing had given it to us. Not through kindness. Not even through cruelty. It wanted something in return. It wanted us to change. That's what happened to Luca. And Leszek. And maybe even Jacob, wherever he was. Jurek fell asleep first, curled up in a ball like a baby bird. I tried to stay awake. I didn't want to dream. I did anyway. I dreamed I was back in the village. My father was baking bread. My mother was singing. But something was wrong. The bread was black. The song had no words. Then I looked outside and saw the forest. The trees were bending. Not from the wind. They were bowing. To something walking through them. Something tall. Something with my face. I woke up with blood in my mouth. Jurek was gone. The door was still blocked. The rags untouched. But he was gone. I searched the shed. Nothing. No footprints. No sign of a struggle. Just his bread crust, sitting neatly where his head had been, and a single word written in the dust. More. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I opened the shed door. The camp was gone. The watchtowers were empty husks. The barbed wire had crumbled into ash. The barracks were nothing but splinters and soot. And in the middle of it all, where the pit used to be, there was a hole. A black, pulsing hole that breathed like a lung. And standing beside it, Jacob, alive, or something like it. His face was too smooth, his eyes too wide, but it was him. He looked up at me and smiled. "Emil," he said, "you're the last one. Come eat. It's almost time." I stepped back. "No," I whispered. "You're not Jacob." He tilted his head. "Of course I am. I remember everything. Our jokes, the songs, the latrine." He laughed. The latrine was the beginning. That's where it opened the first door. That's where it started feeding us bits of itself. I shook my head, my hands trembling. "You're lying." He stepped forward. "I'm not lying. I'm inviting. You've already tasted it, Emil. We all did. But you're special. You're the one who shared it. You passed the hunger on. You're the key." He reached out his hand. Behind him, the pit pulsed. The trees around the camp leaned inward like they were listening. And something began crawling out of the hole. It had 1,000 mouths, and all of them whispered the same word. "Emil." I ran, but the camp had no end now. The trees stretched forever. The sky was dark. The ground pulsed under my feet like I was running across the back of some great beast. I ran until my legs gave out, until my body collapsed, and I woke up in a new place, a new camp, fresh fences, clean barracks, guards I didn't recognize, and boys. New boys, all looking just like we had looked, lost, hungry, scared. And in my hands, a bowl, still warm, still full, of that same gray sludge. I stared at it for a long time. Then someone tapped my shoulder. It was one of the guards. "Time to eat," he said. I looked at the bowl and realized I was smiling, just like the others, just like it. I brought the bowl to my lips, and then the lights went out, all at once, and the screaming began again. The lights didn't flicker. They snapped off like someone had cut a wire. Total black. The kind that feels alive. The kind that presses in on your chest and whispers things you're not supposed to hear. Screams exploded in every direction. Boys stumbling, crying, crashing into walls and each other. The sound of tin bowls hitting the floor. Somewhere near the corner, someone was begging in Polish. "Proszę no, please, not again." I didn't move. The bowl was still in my hands. Still warm, still full, and I could feel it moving. Something inside the sludge shifted, like a worm coiling deeper into the muck. I dropped the bowl, heart pounding, and backed into the wall. The screams didn't stop, but they changed, became shrill, wet, throaty, then silence. That kind of silence that's worse than any scream. A hand grabbed my ankle. I kicked hard, scrambled away. "Emil." The voice was tiny, trembling. A boy, younger than me, maybe 10. I crouched low, trying to see through the dark. My eyes adjusted slowly. Shapes began to form. Bunk beds, broken bowls, shadows that weren't just shadows. I found the boy. He was hiding under one of the lower bunks, face pale, cheeks streaked with tears. "What's your name?" I whispered. "Stefan." His voice cracked. I reached for him. "Stay close. Don't speak unless I say." He nodded. We moved through the barracks like ghosts, stepping over the bodies. Some were still twitching. Others were wrong. Bent at angles, bones don't bend. One boy was curled in a ball, arms wrapped tight around himself. I thought he was alive until I saw that his head was gone. The bowl next to him was empty. Something had eaten upward. We reached the door. I opened it just enough to peek out. More darkness, more silence, but the air was different, thicker, and it stank like breath that had come up from a grave. I turned to Stefan. We need to get out. Find the hole. Burn it. Collapse it. Something. His eyes widened. You know, I've seen it before. He didn't ask how. Smart boy. We stepped into the yard. The mud was thicker here, clinging to our shoes, pulling at our feet. The stars above were gone. Not a single light in the sky. Just clouds, swirling in slow, unnatural circles. We made it as far as the latrines before we saw the first one. It wasn't human. Not anymore. Its skin was stretched, tight like wet paper over wire. Its arms dragged on the ground, ending in bony fingers too long to belong to a person. Its face was a mess of mouths, all chewing and twitching. It was feeding on a body, tearing flesh, not with teeth, but by absorbing it. The skin just vanished when it touched the creature's chest, like it was being sucked into something. Stefan gasped. The thing stopped. It turned. Dozens of eyes blinked open across its back. All of them stared at us. I grabbed Stefan's hand and ran. The creature shrieked. It didn't sound like a monster. It sounded like a flute being broken, high and sharp and full of pain. The sound tore through the camp like a knife. I looked back once. More were coming. Dozens. All crawling out of shadows. Out of the mud. Out of each other. We reached the edge of the woods. I dove into the brush, dragging Stefan behind me. We didn't stop until we found the old watchtower, the one that had collapsed during storm weeks before. I pulled him inside. We hid beneath the broken stairs, wrapped in musty tarp. "What are they?" he whispered. I didn't answer right away. Then I said us. He looked at me like I was mad. But it was true. They were us. Twisted. Hollowed. Remade. We'd eaten their voice, and now they wore our skin. "They come from a hole," I said. "From the pit. There's something inside it, something old. It feeds. Then it grows." Stefan was shaking. "What do we do?" "We go back. We burn it. We end it." His face went pale. "Back. I've done this before," I said. But I ran. I let it spread. Not this time. I peeked outside. The yard was filled with them now. Crawling, dragging, climbing over each other. Searching. Then I saw it. In the center. Jacob. Still wearing his same stupid grin. But he was taller now. His neck too long. His chest pulsing like it held a heart that wasn't his. He turned and looked right at me. "Emil." His voice rang in my head like church bells dipped in oil. "It's almost time." And from the pit behind him, something began to rise. Huge. Dripping. Covered in faces. All of them familiar. All of them screaming. I grabbed Stefan's hand again, and we ran toward it. We ran straight into hell. The pit wasn't just a hole anymore. It was a wound in the earth. Black and slick, throbbing like a living thing. Its sides pulsed with red veins, some as thick as tree trunks, others no wider than threads of hair. The ground around it was cracked, steaming. It stank of old blood, rotting sugar, and something stranger, something that smelled almost like home. A trick, a memory used as bait. Jacob stood at the edge, arms open like he was welcoming an old friend. "Welcome back, Emil," he said. "You brought dessert." He looked at Stefan when he said it, licked his lips. I shoved the boy behind me. "You're not Jacob." "Not anymore," he said, smiling wide. "But I remember him. I remember you. I remember the bread, the jokes, the cold nights. That first bite. You loved it. My mouth tasted like rust. I clenched my fists. What is this? Were you? A demon? A ghost?" His smile dropped. "I'm what you made. What we all made. A piece of hunger. A seed planted in a pit of filth and fed with desperation." He turned to the pit and spread his arms. And now it's blooming. The thing in the hole began to rise higher. It wasn't a creature, not really. It didn't have a shape that made sense. Its body was a whirl of limbs and ribs, faces stitched together, mouths moaning prayers in languages no one should know. Each part of it looked like it had once belonged to someone else, some prisoner, some guard, some child. I saw Lesek's eyes, Marek's hands, Luca's broken teeth. It was them, twisted, consumed, reborn as part of this God. Or maybe it was never God. Maybe it was just hunger given shape. "You fed it," Jacob said. "You nourished it. Every spoonful, every secret shared in the dark. You were always part of it. I looked at Stefan. He was crying, but not loudly. He was shaking, clinging to me like a drowning man to driftwood. I bent down and whispered, "Run, as fast as you can. Back to the fence. Don't look back." He shook his head, eyes wild. "Run, Stefan. Please." He hesitated, then ran. Jacob made no move to stop him. It doesn't matter. The fence is gone. The world's already feasting. I walked forward one step at a time. My legs were jelly. My mind was screaming. But I kept walking, to the edge of the pit. Jacob tilted his head. "Are you ready to become part of it?" I reached into my coat pocket. There, wrapped in a scrap of cloth, was the matchbox. Old, from before the war. Only one match left. I kept it all this time. Not for fire. For hope. Jacob saw it. His smile cracked. "No." I took the match out. Struck it on the edge of the box. A small flame flickered. Jacob screamed. The thing in the pit shrieked. Dozens of mouths wailing in harmony. I stepped forward and threw the flame into the pit. For a second, nothing happened. Then the world exploded. The flame caught on the gases leaking from the pit, igniting the slime, the bile, the rot. Fire ripped upward, hungry and golden. The air turned white with heat. Skin peeled. Wood cracked. The pit began to collapse. The creature screamed again, louder this time. A cry not of rage, but of pain. Real pain. It thrashed, arms flailing, faces melting away. Jacob ran at me. "No, you don't know what you've done. We were so close." I grabbed the tin bowl at my feet. Swung it hard. It struck his face with a crack. He fell backward into the fire and vanished. The sky split open. The clouds tore away, revealing stars, real stars. Clean, bright, beautiful. The trees stopped swaying. The earth stopped groaning. The camp fell silent, and I collapsed. When I woke, it was dawn. Smoke curled from the ruins of the pit, but the fire had died down. The faces were gone. The smell had faded. I stood slowly, aching all over. Stefan was there, sitting by the old watchtower. He saw me and ran into my arms. "I thought you were gone," he sobbed. "I thought everything was gone." I whispered. We didn't speak again for a long time. We just sat there, watching the sun rise over the broken camp. And then behind us, the sound. A creak. A footstep. We turned. One of the barack doors was swinging open. Inside, something moved. Something dragging. Something breathing. I shoved Stefan behind me, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. The door to the ruined barracks creaked slowly, groaning like old bones. Smoke curled around its edges, rising from the scorched earth. We waited. Silence. Then, scratch, drag, scratch. Something was coming. Crawling. Heavy and wet. My body tensed, ready to run. But the door burst open before I could even blink. Out it came. Not a creature. Not yet. A hand. It was burned black, fingers curled and twitching, skin hanging in melted strips. It clawed at the dirt, dragging something behind it. Then the head followed. Half a face. No skin. One eye white and bulging. The other gone, a hollow socket filled with ash. Its jaw hung loose, swinging open with each pull. It groaned, low and thick like death trying to breathe. It wasn't Jacob. It was me. My own face. Melted. Destroyed. Still alive. I froze. Stefan screamed. The thing dragged itself into the light, its ribs poking through its chest, its legs missing entirely. Just a stump of a torso and those two awful hands. It looked at me, my face looking at me. And then it said, in a voice made of broken glass, "You left us." I backed away, feet slipping in the mud. Stefan grabbed my arm, trying to pull me, but I couldn't move. "You fed us," it moaned. "You made us. You burned us. And now you come back." It dug its fingers into the ground and pulled itself forward. "I'm not you," I whispered. It smiled my smile. Crooked. Familiar. Not yet. Suddenly it stopped. Its body stiffened. Then it began to convulse. Something inside it moved, twisting, pressing out beneath the skin like rats in a sack. A crack split across its chest. Then something burst out of it. A small, round shape. A bowl. The tin bowl I'd used. Bent and blackened, but still whole. It clattered to the dirt. Stefan screamed again and yanked me backward. That broke the spell. I turned and ran. We didn't stop until we reached the far edge of the camp, past the fences, past the burnt trees, into the open field beyond where the grass was starting to grow again. We collapsed beneath an old tree stump, gasping for breath. For a long time, we just lay there. Then Stefan turned to me and said, "What was that?" I didn't know how to answer, but I tried. It's like a part of me that never died. That kept feeding, even after the pit burned. Maybe it crawled out before the end. Maybe it was always there, waiting. Stefan was quiet for a moment. Then he whispered, "I heard it talk to me last night." I sat up. When you told me to run." His voice trembled. "It told me it was my mother." I didn't breathe. "It told me she was in the woods, that she was waiting for me, that she was hungry." I put my hands on his shoulders. "Stefan, that wasn't her." He nodded. "I know, but it sounded like her. The lullaby, the way she used to." He stopped. We both turned. From a field behind us, smoke. A new camp. Somehow, impossibly, another one. It hadn't been there before. There were no roads leading to it. No tracks. Just the outline of fences, the shadows of watchtowers, and tiny figures inside. Moving. Crying. "More," I said. Stefan looked up at me. "They made another?" "No," I whispered. "It made another. Because the hunger never ends. You think you've stopped it. You think it's gone. But hunger doesn't die. It only waits for someone new to feed it. And now it had more." I stood. "We have to go there." "Why?" "To stop it before it grows." Stefan hesitated. "But what if it's too late?" I looked toward the new camp. Flames flickered inside. Smoke curled upward, slow and greedy. We stopped it anyway. We started walking. The sky above us was still gray, still heavy, and in the wind, I could already hear the whispers. "Hungry. Come eat. Remember." We walked into the smoke, and the ground beneath our feet began to breathe again. The smoke wrapped around us like a cold cloak, thick and choking. Every step forward felt like walking deeper into a dream, one that smelled of ash and wet earth, and something else, something rotten and alive. The new camp rose out of the haze like a ghost town. Fences sharp against the gray sky, watchtowers tall and empty, but with shadows moving inside. I tightened my grip on Stefan's hand. His fingers were ice cold. He didn't say a word. The closer we got, the more I could feel it. Something crawling beneath the ground, waiting, hungry, alive. The hunger had grown since the fire. It wasn't just a pit anymore. It was spreading, growing roots, veins, and sharp teeth beneath the soil. We reached the gate. The lock was broken, the wire cut clean. Inside, the buildings were eerily quiet. Empty bunks, scattered bones, bowls cracked and stained with old sludge. The air tasted sour like milk gone bad. There was no sign of guards or prisoners, just shadows and silence. Then a soft whisper brushed past my ear. "Emil!" I spun around. Nothing, but I felt it. The hunger. It was here. It breathed in the walls. It crawled in the cracks. Stefan tugged me toward one of the barracks. We slipped inside, hearts pounding. The room was dark, but in the corner, a faint glow pulsed like a heartbeat. We moved closer. There in the center of the room was the bowl. A bowl full of gray sludge. It wasn't warm. It wasn't cold. It was waiting. I looked at Stefan. "Do you remember what I told you?" He nodded. "This is the heart of it. The hunger. The seed." The glow grew brighter. Suddenly, the sludge began to move. Slowly, like something alive. Something waiting to be fed. I felt the old sickness rise in my stomach. The hunger whispering again. "Eat, feed, grow." Stefan stepped back, shaking. "We can't." "I know," I said, but my hands itched. The hunger wasn't just in the sludge. It was inside me. Inside Stefan. Inside everyone who had ever tasted it. Then the room shook. The walls cracked. The sludge bubbled and hissed. From the darkness, shapes began to emerge. Thin, twisted creatures made of shadows and mud. They crawled forward on spindly limbs, their mouths opening and closing without sound. Jacob's face appeared in the slime, smiling wide. "We're hungry," it said, "and we're not alone." The creatures reached for us. I grabbed Stefan. "We have to destroy it. Now." He nodded. I grabbed the matchbox. This time I didn't hesitate. I struck the match. The flame flickered. The creatures hissed. I threw the flame into the sludge. The fire exploded. The room filled with light and heat. The creatures screamed. Their bodies melted into steam. Jacob's face dissolved. The hunger screamed and tore itself apart. But as the fire died, I saw something else. Beneath the sludge, a new pit was opening. Bigger, deeper, and darker. The hunger was not finished. It was only beginning. Stefan looked at me with wide eyes. We have to leave. Now. We ran. Outside, the sky was burning red. The camp was collapsing, the ground shaking beneath our feet. And from the pit, a voice boomed. Feed me. We didn't look back, because we knew the hunger was alive, and it would never stop. We ran as the ground trembled beneath our feet, the red sky swallowing the last light of day. The camp behind us collapsed in on itself, the new pit widening like a monstrous mouth ready to swallow the world. Trees bent and cracked. The earth groaned in agony. Every breath I took was thick with smoke and fear. Stefan stumbled beside me, tears streaking down his dirty face. Will it ever end? He gasped. I didn't answer. I didn't want to say it out loud. But deep down, I knew the truth. The hunger never ends. It only waits. Waits for someone like us, hungry, broken, desperate, to feed it again. We reached the edge of the forest, and the whispers chased us, soft and terrible, calling our names, promising relief, promising peace. Come eat. Remember, the voices followed us into the night. I looked down at my hands. They trembled, stained with dirt and something darker. I realized then that no matter how far we ran, no matter how much fire we threw at the darkness, a part of the hunger had become me. A part of it had become us. Stefan looked up at me and whispered, "What do we do now?" I swallowed hard. The weight of everything, the camp, the pit, the faces lost, pressed on my chest. We live, I said. We fight. We remember who we were before the hunger. He nodded, wiping his tears, and as the first cold stars began to shine through the smoke, I made a promise to myself and to him. No matter what, we would never feed the hunger again. But in the darkest corners of my mind, I knew the hunger was waiting, watching, hungry for its next meal. And one day it would come back, because some horrors never die. They just wait to be fed.